Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am filming this on Halloween and today we will be talking about all of the books I read in October. So I did manage to finish 4 books in October and the first one was Pet Sematary by Stephen King. So this book is about a guy who is a doctor. He works at a university and he and his wife and their 2 little children moved to a town in Maine. The road outside of their house is a very busy road and a lot of animals tend to get hit on this road, and one day their cat gets killed while the family is away on Thanksgiving and the father is the only one home. And so the neighbor knows how much his daughter loves this cat, and so he takes him to go bury this cat in the pet cemetery. So they bury the cat and then the cat later comes back to life. And so that's the premise of this book. I don't want to say any more than that because I don't want to give anything away. The plot did surprise me about halfway through. It took a turn that I wasn't expecting, and so that was really nice. I have not read a lot of Stephen King, and the books that I have read have varied a lot. I read Salem's Lot last year and I really did not like it very much at all. Whereas I've also read The Green Mile, which I loved at the time that I read it. So this book I ended up giving 3 stars because I really liked the beginning and then I lost interest a lot. I felt like I was just listening to it to get through it and I wasn't really enjoying it very much. However, I did really like the ending. Yeah, I gave it 3 stars. It was fine. It was good. Spooky enough to get me in the Halloween spirit. And I know a lot of people love this book because it talks about grief a lot. And I do like the way that it handles that topic. I thought that was really great. But the overall plot and story and characters didn't really pull me in enough, so this one I gave 3 stars. So the next book I finished was The Shadow of Kyoshi by F.C. Yee, and this book is the sequel to The Rise of Kyoshi, which I read last year and I talk about on my channel a lot. In this book, Kyoshi is a little bit older but still a teenager, even though she doesn't act like a teenager, so I kind of wish they had aged her up a little bit. And the conflicts in this book happen mainly in the Fire Nation. So she's dealing with the Fire Lord, and I don't really want to give that much away, but the Fire Nation is very different in this book, different than how we know it in the original Avatar series. There's a lot of unrest, and so she has to try to solve that in her own Kyoshi way. We also learn a lot more about the previous avatars in this book. Specifically, I know that it's pronounced Kuruk, but I always read it as Karuk. So Avatar Karuk, that's just how I'm going to say it. We learn a lot more about him. We learn a lot more about Ying Chen. And also the fire avatar that comes before Kyoshi that was previously unnamed. We learn about him in this book too. So that was probably my favorite parts of this book. Overall though, I didn't like it as much as the first one. I gave both of them 3 stars, but I did like the first one more. I felt like this one took more liberties with some of the bending and some of the spirit world things. I don't think it ever contradicts what we know, but it does tend to take liberties with some of the foundational things that we have learned in the original Avatar series and The Legend of Korra. So I didn't love that. However, to keep a book interesting, you have to, push the boundaries with bending and to add something new and fresh. So I understand why the author made those choices. I just didn't particularly like them. So yeah, I ended up giving this one 3 stars as well, keeping up with my 3-star trend. So the third book I read was Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. And my copy really doesn't have a cover, so you can't really tell it's Rebecca, but if you can read the spine, it is. This book I really liked, even though it was totally different from what I expected. I thought that this would be kind of like The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson, which I read around this time last year. I knew it was more of a gothic story, and I thought it was more of a haunting or a ghost story. It kind of is, but in an unexpected way. So I really don't want to give much away because I enjoyed going into this book knowing nothing, and I was surprised along the way, and I really enjoyed that about it. And I actually really, really liked the writing. It actually tends to be more of an introspective book where you're inside the head of the main character, whose name is never actually given. So you really get inside her head, and I connected with her so much. Like, even though this was written in the 30s, the feelings that she has, I think, are still relevant today, where she's shy and she feels like she's being overshadowed and that she doesn't really know where she belongs or how to socialize with other people around her. And there were all these little things where I just like felt for her. My only complaint with this book, it almost feels like 3 different books in one. It definitely has that 3-act structure that a lot of books have, but it tended to feel more disconnected. Like all 3 parts felt very disconnected from each other. And I didn't love that. I do kind of understand why the author might have made that choice, but I wish that it had flowed a little bit more seamlessly. But other than that, I really, really loved this book. I debated giving it 5 stars, but because I didn't feel like the 3 parts were very cohesive, I gave it 4 stars. But it's my first 4-star read since like August. By the way, last night my husband and I actually watched the new Netflix adaptation of Rebecca with Lily James, and we did not like it. He, having knowing nothing about it, did not like it, and I, having read the book, also did not like it. So don't necessarily recommend the movie. I felt like it didn't keep the integrity of the book, and by the end, I kind of felt like it didn't even really understand the book. If you're interested in the book, just know that the Netflix adaptation, I don't think is a very faithful adaptation. Okay, and the last book I finished reading in October, I just finished reading this morning, is the Imbalance graphic novel from Avatar: The Last Airbender. So this is the 6th graphic novel comic series of Avatar, and I think it might be the last big binding like this that they come out with for a while. And in this one, they did change writers and authors from the previous 5, so it does have a different feel to it than the other Avatar comics. I still liked it. I thought that the conflict in this, you see a lot of conflict between benders and non-benders, where the benders are actually the antagonists, and I felt like that was a really good change of pace. You see the very, very, very beginnings of Republic City in this, and that's exciting to see how Avatar bridges the gap between the first show and Korra is always really interesting to me, and so you see those seeds in here. I don't think it did some things as well as the other comic series. It is definitely not my favorite of the Avatar comics, but it is good. It was enjoyable. I liked what it added to the canon, so yeah, I was happy with it. I gave it 3 stars. So those were all the books I finished reading. Some books that I am planning to read in November. I think I might listen to Scythe by Neil Shustermann. I do own this audiobook, and I don't know how much I will be listening to audiobooks because I will be doing NaNoWriMo in November. If you're interested in hearing about NaNoWriMo, by the way, I just did a video about it. Go check that out. So as far as audiobooks go, I think I might listen to Scythe, but I don't know how much I'll be listening to audiobooks. Graphic novel wise, I kind of want to get to Ruins of the Empire. This is the newest Legend of Korra comic series, and since for NaNoWriMo, I will be writing an Avatar/Korra fanfiction. I want to catch up on all of the canon, and this is the last piece that I really need to read. So hopefully I will be able to get to this in November. And then the main book that I will be reading in November is really exciting. I'm actually really excited for it. It is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I actually broke down and bought the Owl Crate edition, and I've never gotten any kind of book subscription box. This was my very first one, and this is a signed edition. It's very nice quality. I loved everything in the box, and so yeah, this just came in last night and I'm really, really excited for it. And this will be the main book that I will be reading during November. I will be doing NaNoWriMo in November, so I might not be posting as much, but I do have the part 2 of my book tour filmed and I'm currently editing it, and I will have that scheduled to go up. So you can keep an eye out for that. And I will try to be doing weekly vlogs or updates about the novel I'm writing. And I know that's not really book related, so if you're not interested in that, don't feel bad. But if you are, then those videos will be going up too. Other than that, I will probably be more active on my social media platforms during November, such as my Twitter and Instagram. So feel free to follow me there. So I will see you next time. Bye. To like it. No, didn't really resonate. No. Gosh, Emily, it's like you haven't filmed in 20 years. How to talk about this book without giving too much away. What did I like about the writing? My husband and I watched the Netflix, the new, my husband and I, Another Plane by, is it Neil? Who wrote Scythe? I get all the Neils mixed up. Shustermann. And it feels very appropriate to be dressed as a cat right now because Pet Sematary, yeah.